Hi there, and welcome to a special episode of Are You Annie? Now, usually we talk about healing from narcissistic abuse, finding your voice, and reclaiming your strength. But today I'm going to do something a little different. I want to answer some questions about me that have come to me in private messages or emails. I'm your host, Keil Hackley. I'm an attorney, a mother, a grandmother, and author of Undercurrent. And sometimes I get messages asking me some interesting things like, why do you always wear a cowboy hat? Well, to be honest, I'm not really surprised that I got that question. I always wondered if people were curious about this. So today, I'm going to share a little bit about myself, who I am, why I created this podcast, and what drives me to keep going. So let's get to it. Why do you always wear that cowboy hat? At least 2 or 3 people have asked me that. Well, first off, I live in Texas now for the last 3 years. I moved to Texas to be with my daughter's family, especially my 16-year-old granddaughter and my 13-year-old grandson. And if you know anything about Texas, you know that cowboy culture isn't just a style, it's a way of life. But for me, the hat is a little bit more than that. I guess I've reached a point in my life, 71 years old and counting, and I feel like I've earned the right to be a little eccentric if I want, to wear what I want to wear and to own who I am. So that partially explains the hat. But to be particularly honest, I recognize that people probably in this arena, in this podcast world, people aren't going to remember my name. Maybe they'll at least say, hey, go watch that lady who talks about narcissistic abuse, you know, the one that wears the cowboy hat. And if that helps just one woman find my podcast and feel less alone, I'll keep wearing it proudly. So something a little bit more substantive is a question, and this comes to me a lot, of why I started the Are You Annie podcast. After all, I'm not a therapist or any kind of mental health professional. As you know, I'm an attorney and someone who's just passionately committed to my family. But as a lawyer, I've sat across so many women who have told me their stories, their horror stories of narcissistic abuse. I felt like I needed to do something to pay tribute to their journeys because I believe in the power of giving women a voice. Too many women are dismissed, they're doubted, or they're made to question their own reality. I want to create a space where no matter what stage you're in, if you're in the middle of a narcissistic relationship where you are finding your way out, or you are a survivor that's come out on the other end, I want to create a space where women just like Annie in Undercurrent can finally hear those words. I believe in you. You are not alone, and you are stronger than you think. And if you've never experienced narcissistic abuse, or you haven't gotten to know somebody who has, you may not realize the impact of those words. But if you have, then you know how very important it is that the Annies out there know that they're not alone and that their experiences can be validated. This podcast isn't about just always rehashing trauma. It's about breaking cycles, reclaiming power, and moving forward. It's about reminding every woman listening that her story matters, that healing is possible, and that no one, absolutely no one, gets to silence her for any reason. So another question that has come up is, what's the one thing you wish that every survivor of narcissistic abuse knew? And I guess that would be that their past does not define them, that the damage left behind doesn't have to dictate their future. It can't dictate their future. And that living in a toxic relationship isn't about escaping. It's about rebuilding, rediscovering, and reclaiming the life that was always meant to be theirs. I've seen what happens when a woman finally steps into her power, when she realizes that her voice does matter. And let me tell you, when that happens, there is no stopping her. Little personal story about my own power, because I don't want you to think that all I do is talk about this really heavy topic. Life just isn't about surviving. It's about living. And sometimes that means doing something that scares you. For me, that something was getting on my first horse at 59 years old, having never ridden a horse before. I just knew I had to do it. And once I did, I learned what it was like to command the respect of a powerful horse. Within 6 months of getting on that horse, I adopted an off-the-track thoroughbred. And even though I thought I was pretty tough, having practiced 35 plus years as an attorney, a lot of that in the courtroom and in adversarial situations, I didn't know what it was like to feel empowered until I had my first horse. I experienced a kind of strength that I had never known before. There's something about standing next to a 1,200-pound animal and realizing that he doesn't have to follow you. He doesn't have to listen to you. But when he does, it's because he wants to. He sees you as a leader and he respects you. Once you earn the respect of an animal like that, it's the kind of power that changes you forever. And in many ways, it's just like life. We don't always feel ready. We don't always know how we're going to go about doing something. But when we step into something bigger than ourselves, when we stop waiting and we start moving forward, we find out just how powerful we really are. Somebody asked me what is the best advice that I've ever received, and had to think about that a little bit. I've had quite a few mentors in my day. But somebody once said to me, and I love this, the most dangerous thing a woman can do is realize her worth. And I believe that, because once you see your value, once you recognize what you are worth, there is no going back. So that's why I do this podcast. That's why I believe so strongly in the AreYouAnnie movement, because the moment a woman reclaims her voice, she becomes unstoppable. I started Are You Annie because I believe every woman deserves to be heard. I believe in validation. I believe in truth. I believe in breaking free from the voices both in the world and inside our own heads. I don't want to listen anymore to anyone who tells me or anybody else that we don't matter, because we do. So if you're listening to this and wondering if your story matters, let me tell you right now, it does. You matter. And if this podcast helps even one woman feel a little less alone, then every episode, every conversation, every word spoken here is all worth it. So that's a little bit about me. And if you like this, let me know. Maybe we'll do more of these down the road. And if you have a question, please send it in a message, a DM, in the comment. I love hearing from you. I want to get to know you better, and I want you to get to know me better. Until next time, keep speaking, keep healing, keep riding toward your freedom. And always remember this: I want you to be strong because you're stronger than you think. I want you to be tenacious and never give up on what's important to you. Thank you so very much for listening. See you next time.